Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. There is obviously the free agency conversation a number of guys will get into talking about today, but as you're driving into the office, some breaking news. I don't know how really impactful this will be for the Colorado Avalanche in the coming season, but they signed a guy.
Yeah. We're off and running. It's kind of like last year when they traded for Frederick Olofsson and signed him.
Yeah.
You know what?
Where it was like,
very similar.
cool. It's a thing.
Yuri Inola, I think I said that right. It's Finnish, so I probably messed it up, but signed out of the...
I feel confident you got the Yuri part right.
I got Yuri. It's the Inola. Like
The couple of quick highlights that I pulled up, it was Inola.
Okay. So.
I couldn't understand any of the other words.
There are enough Finns that I can guess the Finnish naming structure. Yeah.
They speak fast.
The only other Finnish word I know is perkelis, and you're not supposed to say that. So
I'm glad you just did.
I don't know nothing about
Excellent decision making, live on air.
But a guy signed out of the Swedish Hockey League. He also played some of his pro career in the Finnish Liga. Billed as a guy who has a high-end shot, has been a sniper his whole career. A little bit undersized at 5'9". Are we reading into this at all, or is this an off-season depth guy?
Yeah, I think for right now, we have seen a number of these guys get signed all the time. Every organization does something like this every year. I'm not sitting here immediately saying he's going to be an Eagle or he's going to be an Av. We'll probably see him at the rookie face-off showcase tournament, whatever the hell we call it on any given day.
Are you allowed at that age?
Yeah.
He's at 26.
I didn't remember the rule. I don't remember. I'm talking about
you guys remember Andreas Martinsson went at the same age?
Yeah.
The Swedish kid 2 years ago, whose name I can never remember, was there. They signed these guys a lot of the times, and they put them there to try and get them a little extra time with the coaching and to get them on the ice and see what they're going to look like compared to guys that aren't going to be in pro hockey. So a lot of...
I didn't know you were allowed.
I would expect that he's there. If he's not, then he has to do it at training camp.
Yeah.
Whatever. Either way, this is entirely we have to wait for training camp.
Well, I think
Just to see how he stacks up with the rest of the depth, which they have a lot of depth decisions to make.
Yep.
We'll talk about that tomorrow. But this is just, okay, great. This is a guy that is under contract and will be an Eagle or an Av next year.
And this is where it is, like we've been talking about it the last couple of weeks with the Avs prospect, cubby. It's not thick, right? It's thin. Yep. We all know that for all the reasons. I mean, that's what happens when you get a Stanley Cup. So not throwing darts here, just stating facts. So I think, what do you do at that time? You turn towards college free agency, which they did a lot last year, right, with Malinsky and
didn't do it all this year.
Then, right? I was going to say there was it was AHL contract.
They gave out AHL deals,
which is fine. Or you can look towards the European leagues, right? Same thing. An older guy ready to go, or like as a call up, or a guy that can stick here. I'm not gonna say I know the guy. I have no idea. Like, I've never seen him play, so I'm not gonna sit here and say, God, he is really good. He's got a sick shot. I don't know. But you got to trust your scouting staff, and here's what it looks to me a little bit like when you read the profile. It looks to me to be a little bit like, again, different path, but he ended up there this year anyway. It was the guy that was a top 6 guy for the Avs 2 years ago. I'm having a blank right now as I'm talking. Little righty that came from waivers on Florida. Malgin. It kind of looks like that. You know what I mean? A little bit of a smaller, skilled guy that, played in maybe European leagues and played here in the NHL. I mean, this guy didn't, but maybe he's got the similar profile. Maybe that's what they're looking for, plug a hole there. Maybe they think he's more than that, and then he can find a spot. We'll know in training camp because, like I said, I have no idea.
I would say 2 things about this. One, in a world where the Avs are pulling some cap shenanigans next year, this is a guy who's going to be a league minimum or nearly league minimum contract.
He's on the ALC.
Yeah, like a cheap contract that could slot into the bottom of your lineup. Yeah. Like you guys said, he has to earn it. He has to do the right things in training camp and all of that. But another opportunity for a cheaper guy to potentially make the lineup. And 2, Finn squad gang.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the reason they signed him, but I don't think it's a coincidence either.
I was sitting next to Eric when we sat down and saw the news, and I was like, this has got to be like another Arturi Lehkonen, like bestie from childhood.
Yep.
You know, that's a really tight-knit hockey community, so it's just like I would be shocked if one of the many Finns in the Avalanche organization was not already very familiar
them
with
personally.
him.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But you can tell every team's got, like Calgary's all Swedes, and what I mean, like this just, this seems to be like camaraderie here with the Finns, which is nice. And then some teams there's a lot of Americans, some teams a lot of Canadians, and just the way it falls into it. But it's just kind of like what it is. I like that aspect actually, and sometimes it's easy to go get guys that, again, trusted sources, right? That you feel that, this guy can get, this guy can play. Or trust me, I was friends with him growing up, and even my best buddy plays with him in the Finnish league, and it's his best friend, and good person, good player. So
trusted sources, also biased sources.
Always is, right? You know what I mean? It's just reality of life, right? So.
Well, look, when they trade up for Hellenius, then something is really up.
Yeah, then we'll know, like, all right.
Our spirits, because they have Consta Hellenius.
And then the name Yari Curry.
Andreas Wingerly, that's it. That was the guy they signed 2 years ago.
About,
yeah.
He was,
Yeah. Very similar to Andreas Wingerly. Perfect.
Never played in the top 6, but yeah.
So.
Maybe they'll name Yari Curry head amateur scout. No,
that'd be funny.
Knows? Jerry. I love that man.
We'll see.
I'm kidding.
We'll see.
Yeah. The reality with guys that sign like this is, generally speaking, their ceilings aren't going to be very high. So don't overthink it, is what I would say.
Yeah. And this is like, if you feel strongly either way, you're either related to them or you're overreacting.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But it's, I don't know. Here's the way I look at it all the time when it's a situation like that, a 26-year-old, like, sometimes it works. It's awesome. Most times it doesn't, because how can so many people be so wrong for so many years? You know what I mean? Like, how can 31 teams be wrong for so many years? Or it's a circumstance that the guy didn't want to come or whatever it was. Yeah. Now he feels he's ready. That's why I say I'm not going to judge until the guy gets here. And, why not? It's a guy that's ready to play. In a sense, he's not 18 years old. So he just plays in Loveland if he doesn't make it.
I'll give you reason number one why guys can be wrong for so many years. He's 5'9".
Well, well, you're right. But that's what I mean. Most of the time, I didn't say, this time he might be awesome. That's great. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean,
but most of the time,
No, you're right.
But you're right about the 5'9". I mean, there's a guy, again, we'll talk about it, but
yep.
I was reading about, like, you guys familiar with that Poirier guy, whatever, and the Quebecer? He's like, but he's really small, and then he scored like a gazillion goals, and didn't invite him to the combine, and everyone's mad that he wasn't anyway. Because why? He's small, Anyway.
That's probably the most we talk about him.
Yeah. Until training camp, if he does something crazy.
Like, good chance that is the case.
Yeah. All right. We can move on to our actual topic of the day, which is NHL free agency and being realistic about what Colorado might or might not be able to do in this offseason. Should we start with the guy in the title?
I just because we have to do this and not assume that everybody listens to every show.
I understand.
There's an obvious caveat that there's a $13 million cloud hanging over the organization. We don't know what's going on with Gabe Landeskog. We don't know what's going on with Larry Nichushkin. We just don't really know. Okay? Like, that's just the reality of it. That's the truth. We'll see. We'll see what they decide to do. I think our approach is that they will spend some of those dollars. Certainly not all 13. Come on. But I think they'll spend some of the money of at least one of those guys. I'm not even saying they're going to spend $6 million, but they might spend 4 of that money to try to not miss the boat entirely, and then they'll figure it out
the rest of the way.
Yeah,
for sure.
Later on.
I agree.
I would put it this way, and again, I don't know for sure. This is my own personal speculation. I would be shocked if the Colorado Avalanche aren't planning for at least one of them to not be back.
Certainly to start the year when they have to be cap compliant.
Yeah.
And obviously, Nichushkin won't count against the cap until a potential reinstatement in the middle of November.
Yep.
So we'll see. He may not even be in the organization at that point. Like
that'll happen when it happens.
Yeah. And I don't mean contract termination. I mean, I don't know if it's a great possibility, but there is always the possibility that they trade problem for problem and whatever. But for the moment, we're just going to assume that they will spend a little bit of that money.
Yep. I would say more than a little bit. But.
So I'm just saying, I don't want us to go through this pod and then get to it and have people be like, but I can't spend any of that money, you guys. Don't you understand the salary cap? Like, we understand. We get it. But if we just say, well, they only have $10 million to spend and 6 of it is going to Casey Middlestat, we do the same show literally every day. Yep. So I'm not going to make that caveat every episode, but I am going to at least bring it up regularly.
You have to bring it up because it's the reality of the situation the Avs are in. I would also say, who cares? There are NHL teams that were spending $95 million against the cap last. You can figure it out later if you go spend.
There are things that can be done, and because we're still a couple of weeks away from all the moving and shaking that's going to take place, that's what we're doing here. We're here to speculate.
And Gabe, with his $7 million, has earned the right with who he is as the captain of the franchise to see where he's at with his career. I mean, he knows that it's also. I don't want to use the word a burden because it's not. It's Gabe, right? You know what I mean? Like he's your guy, right?
You know what I mean? He's smart enough to know but that when he looks at it.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. Like it's just he knows that it's hurting. So meaning hurting the team. You know what I mean? To maneuver through the summer because it's a fact. We were talking about it right here. But I think Chris knows and the rest are. He's earned the right to see where he's at and how it's going to go. Now, if he makes a comeback and then it doesn't go well, then, again, knock on wood, I want Gabe to play. So right? We all do.
Yep.
So, but if he can't play, then all of a sudden, like you said, it's an easy move to the LTI. I mean, he's injured.
Exactly.
I mean, but if you're playing, then okay, that is $7 million. Like that you gotta. It's Gabe Landeskog. He's gonna be on your team.
It's a lot easier to try and move 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because he suddenly gets healthy and you're like, shit, we got to do something.
Yeah.
Than it is to try and move out 7.
Yeah. So I think we're on the same page here, and I think Gabe's earned the right to to be in a wait and see mode. Where, like you said, I think Val will be a different thing. It's unknown.
Yeah.
It's an unknown thing. So
some bridges you can't cross until you get to them.
Exactly.
It's just the reality of the situation on that.
Rudo's a poet. He knows.
I'm not a poet, but
no, sorry, AJ
that's
is.
Jonathan Drouin, who we're about to talk about.
Yes.
Who's the poet? Look, obviously nothing official yet, but to me, it sure seems like all signs point to Jonathan Drouin coming back to the Colorado Avalanche this offseason.
It sure. Once all the stuff happened with Val Nichushkin, it immediately was like,
Jonathan Drouin's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not. You're looking. He had a career year. Everybody understands. Like, he deserves an opportunity to see what he's worth out on the open market, if that's what he wants. If he's really comfortable here, by all accounts, he is. I've heard that he is dying to stay. Like he badly wants to find a way to make it work. His agent is
going on podcasts saying they want him. He wants to be there.
How rare is it that a guy's agent, before something takes place, goes out publicly and is like, look, the organization loves him. He loves the organization. He loves the city. His family loves it. Everything about this worked. He wants to make this work. And it's not just lip service. But it's a guy who has had some real trials and tribulations in his career.
That's it.
That found a resurrection here. This is not Evan Rodriguez trying to find a place in the league, and he's moving around on one-year deals trying to. Jonathan Drouin found it here.
Yep.
And agents don't go out and just give up contract leverage like that with public statements unless there's a real amount of confidence that, hey, something's up.
Yeah.
So I would also say at the moment it feels like there's confidence that Jonathan Drouin will remain in Av. What does that contract look like?
We'll see.
That's the hard part. I think it's got to be in the 4s.
Yep. I think it's going to be closer than I'd like to that 5, but
Yeah.
I don't think it can be.
And that's where, look, if because I'm thinking like a 4 by 4.5 is probably a fair middle ground.
Yep.
If everybody really liked the idea of it, they could maybe drop it down to 4 and add a 5th year to try to
whatever, $500,000 here, a year there, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to matter this year. Every $500,000, whatever, like, they need to be careful with that, but also you can't get so cute with it that you lose a Jonathan Drouin.
And on the flip side of things, you know, I think, and I'm not going to say Jonathan is fragile. I'm saying it's a fragile case, meaning he's already hit the contract before this past year, right? And I'm not saying $10 million a year, but he had made
he's
some
not
pretty
Nazem
good.
Kadri coming in, never got paid.
That's right. He's made some pretty good money, and he comes from far away. He had it tough for a few years. You know what I mean? And I think he put himself together with the help of the environment he was in, which is what the city of Denver, the Colorado Avalanche, his teammates, his old Halifax homie that you guys say all the time, right? And it was perfect fit for him. And he bet on himself, and he did. And like you said, it's not Evan Rodriguez going for a year. You know, he bet on himself, and it worked out. And now he knows it's like, okay, I know what I want. You know what I mean? And it's not just the highest dollar you could get, because he probably could if he goes on free agency. He was that good this year, right? Yeah. He would get way higher money. He
is slated to be a top 10 free agent in this class.
And that's why I say fragile. I mean, I think it's a fragile case. I don't know how to say it. I'm French. You know how it is. What I'm trying to say is it's not complex. It's like it's opposite of complex. Like you just said, it wants to stay. They want him. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do strongly believe good people, both sides, and and I think that's where Alan, Walsh sees that too. And it's like, okay, he went through hell and back. You know what I mean? In those few years, it was tough. And then he's really in a good spot here. Let's make this work. You know what I mean? And I think that the team will be smart about it and the player will be smart about it.
Well, make sure you're finding the perfect fit for your money, too. With Westera Credit Union, 9 different locations in the Denver metro area. They were founded back in 1934, so they've been doing it for 90 years here in Colorado. Founded by 8 teachers, so helping is in their DNA, and they're all about making their members financially prosper. Education is their thing. They just launched a new product, their Smart Money Checking, which will give you 6% annual percentage yield on your first $2,000 each month. And as your balance grows, so does your potential to unlock additional great rates for higher balances. Go check them out if you haven't. I grew up with Westera over in Lakewood. You can also earn a bunch of other stuff too. They have a rewards debit card with no monthly maintenance fees or anything like that. And a ton of other options to check out. Go over and get with them if you like earning money by doing the things you're already doing with your checking account. Visit westeracu.com/smartmoney for more details. Membership eligibility required. Insured by NCUA. Restrictions and conditions apply. Who knows? You get with Westera, maybe you start talking like Jonathan Drouin, $500,000 here, $500,000 there. Who's to say? Once you've got all your money set up with Westera and you've got a little bit of money to play with, make sure you're heading over to Bet365. Use that DNVR365 code to sign up today. Deposit a minimum of $10 and bet $5 on anything to get $150 in bonus bets. Or if you want to go bigger, you can do their first bet safety net. You can place a bet of up to $1,000, and if your bet loses, it'll get refunded by bonus bets. So get in on the first bet safety net or the $150 in bonus bets by signing up with Bet365 today with that DNVR365 code. They also have tons of other boosts, 10,000 boosted bets every single month, including a DNVR custom one that we use regularly. So make sure to go check out those boosts and see those over there. Obviously, no abs or nuggets to watch, but I'm sure they have cup final boosted bets for that Florida-Edmonton series. So go check those ones out over there. Of course, they have other options too, whether it be same game parlays or otherwise. Make sure you're betting with Bet365. You must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Talking Jonathan Drouin here.
Player priorities. We talk about this every single season. We talk player priorities.
Yep.
You go into free agency, you're looking around. Do you want to try and maximize the amount of money that you made? As Eric mentioned, Drouin has made a decent amount already. He had that big contract in Montreal. So I think there's less of a desire. There would naturally be less of a desire for him to try and squeeze every dollar out of it. But when you do have teams like Chicago especially, I've been saying Chicago all year, makes the most sense to just put him on Bedard's wing and give him more money than anybody else will.
Most money possible, yeah.
And, he could get a 4-year deal at $6 million there because they can afford to do that. They instantly get a little bit better. They help their best player out, and you put that guy with Taylor Hall in your first line, and you're like, it's not the worst first line.
Not the best, but not the worst.
But then you look at, Jonathan Drouin is a guy that can help you in your on your second line. If your first line, if you get other guys that are better than that, whatever. But if you're Jonathan Drouin, is that really what you want to do?
No.
Do you really want to go to a rebuilding organization because you're going to make an extra $4 million or something?
If I'm Jonathan Drouin, no. That's not what I want to do.
I wonder what it was like for him to kind of get the taste of being in this type of organization with people that went to bat for him and gave him opportunity, and that he just, let's be real, had the most success with the role. It's the most well-rounded his game had ever been. He got a great deal of trust from a coaching staff. Once he worked his way into it, he was really good in 2 of the 3 playoff games that he played. If he's looking at it and saying, I'm going to be able to get good money here. It's not going to be top dollar, but good money here.
I look at it this way, and this story has played out multiple times in the Colorado Avalanche organization, going all the way back to EJ when the Avs traded for him. The Avs kind of have this idea that these players come in. Eric Johnson, look, man, we didn't draft you first overall. We don't have those expectations of you. We want you to come here and be Jonathan Drouin for us. We don't care about where you were picked. Yep. We don't care about the expectations that Tampa Bay had of you, the ridiculous media expectations of a Quebec player playing in Montreal. None of that is here in Colorado. Just go be you. And you saw it on the flip side with Drouin, too. He got here, and he was like, yo, this team actually has a system. I kind of like this once I figured it out. I'm not playing in Marty St. Louis chaos insanity up in Montreal.
Well, to a player like that, I've always said, what's your price of happiness? It's what it is. What's your price of happiness? Because
of us, you're the only one that's experienced free agency.
Yeah.
And then I was 31 years old, and that's when I hit it, and then nobody wanted me anymore. So I was like, I told my mom, nothing. 2-way deal, and I didn't take it. That's fine. Move on. But I'm saying, as a guy like that, what's your price of happiness? You know what I mean? And I've seen it over the years, and guys go for the money. And I've seen it many times, and it's like you're looking from the outside, and then you're just like, he's making a mistake. You know what I mean? Because it's not the right fit for him. And then the guy ends up being bought out after a couple of years. And next thing you know, it's like you would have made more money, here. And you were happy here, and you were a perfect fit. I always use the word fit. Jonathan Drouin's a perfect fit. The way Jonathan Drouin post-game 10 was. First 10 games, we all know, it was a process of trying to figure out, how do I get there? And kudos to him. It wasn't easy, and I think Bednar gave him credit, right? Because it was hard to get there, but he did it. And then he found his happiness, and now it's like, okay. My dad used to always say, how many steaks can you eat? You know what I mean? It was so true. You know what I mean? But I get it. You know what I mean? Careers are short, but at the end of the day, what is your happiness? And I do believe Jonathan Drouin's happiness is here. And I do believe the Avalanche want him back, and Bednar and the teammates want him back. And I think this is where Alan Walsh gets a bad rap at times. You know what I mean? Sometimes that it's so crazy, and because he's very outspoken, and I think he really knows what's best for his own clients. And I in this case, I think he truly knows Jonathan. You know what I mean? Where he's at and where he wants to be.
There's just too many clues, and it makes too much sense, man.
That's my point. And I think you're right. This is as good as important as it is for the Avalanche of a signing I think we all three agree, you know what I mean? And Tiff and we all agreed that I think that's priority number one.
Yep. I would agree. What was that?
Don't put words in my mouth.
Sorry, Tiff. But you agree?
No, my priority is Jake Gensel.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
Well, that's one's not realistic.
Okay, we'll wait
so
for that one.
Sorry.
Wrong show.
That's the Drouin side of it. We have two other guys on the featuring image of this pod, being Jake DeBrusk and Ilya Samsonov. DeBrusk is a weird one. One, I don't think he wants to leave Boston, but that's just me personally. Two, in a world where Jonathan Drouin is priority number one, is there still room for Jake DeBrusk?
No.
Agree.
No, because, again, we're talking about them potentially. You are saving a spot for Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah.
Somewhere in your lineup. You're saving that spot. Unless they know in the next 2 weeks
That he's done.
that he is for sure just done, they're saving like a spot for him.
Yep.
Which is why we're not like, they're just going to spend all $7 million, just like they did last year. So it is unrealistic to think that if they get Drouin done, they would go for a Jake DeBrusk or another one of the guys that they might be able to find play in their top six as a like real top six guy. They might go get a mid or more of a middle option who ends up in their top six for a bit, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's just kind of the spot they're in right now.
Yeah. I agree. I'm with you. It feels like Jake DeBrusk would jump up that list a lot if Jonathan Drouin ends up not signing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But order of operations there, right? Drouin's situation comes first. And then if he doesn't sign, you start talking about a guy like DeBrusk. Or
Yeah.
maybe like a Gensel if you're really going hard. But
Tiff.
Yeah, if you have to do it because free agency is now less than 3 weeks away.
Yep.
So you've got to really start to get an idea.
And let's not kid ourselves. Every team in the NHL is tampering right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it still might be a little early for the full-blown tampering to begin,
You know
but
that some phone calls have been made.
by the time they all get to the draft floor,
the tampering has been done.
you already know what you're getting. So I do, with a guy like DeBrusk, it's like, okay, if they do bring a Drouin in, for me, it's just like a tough sell. Unfortunately, if you're just doing it on paper, you say, okay, if you bring Drouin back, that's 5 of your top 6 locked in. With that last spot being Landeskog question mark.
Yeah.
And
that's where
you don't know when or if or exactly what's happening there. And that's where it's like, yeah, you could find a spot. But we also don't know, is Gabe Landeskog going to be any good?
Right. Can he even play in the top 6?
It would be silly to think that he's not going to get that opportunity.
Of course, he'll get the chance.
Yeah. If he's
he
healthy
also
enough,
hasn't played hockey in 2 years.
Exactly. If he's healthy enough, they're going to put him there. If he stays there, then he's earned that. If he doesn't, then he's somewhere else in your lineup and you're back at the drawing board for the deadline going, great, now we need one of these guys.
The deadline is a little bit of a bailout, though, right? With the Landeskog situation, especially in a world where you have that question mark and he ends up not filling it down the line, then you have a little bit of money to play with at the deadline to go fill a spot like that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you're still very asset poor.
That's definitely true.
We go back to Jake there. I think he's matured a lot as a player. I think he went through some stuff, right? Requesting a trade a couple of years ago, then rescinding it. And big word there, SAT word for me. Thank you. And then
His English is better than he leads on. Don't let him trick you.
Smart. I'm smart. That's why. No. But I think he matured more as a player. He's the type of guy sometimes you can go dormant in a season. I think the consistency is not always there. But then it seems like in the playoffs, he's always found a gear. You know what I mean? Like with the Boston Bruins, right? The last, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years. I like his game in the playoffs. You watch more in the playoffs, right? Because it's more fun, more intense. And he seems to find a gear. I don't know, but I agree with you guys. I mean, I said it 3 weeks ago. That was one of my guys, But again, are you getting Drouin? Is he leaving? I mean, more the situation they're in right now. It's more like you're right. Doesn't really make sense if we're saying Jonathan Drouin's besides Tiff number one target. You know what I mean for free agency. I don't think it would make sense, but we'll see. We'll see where it shapes up.
We'll see. That's all you can really do when it comes to free agency sometimes.
Yes, Brian will see.
On that note, when you're getting ready for draft day or free agency day, or maybe you're about to make a tampering call, make sure you're chilling with some Coors Light in your
tampering
hand.
text message real quick.
Go get yourself some Coors Light today. It's the beer made to chill, brewed right here in Golden, Colorado, and you don't even have to get up off your couch to get it. You can go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR and Instacart will deliver it right to your front door. So go get yourself some. There are no excuses. Whether you're preparing a backyard barbecue or you're just enjoying a day out on the patio, or maybe you're just hanging out watching the Cup final. Whatever it might be, Coors Light is the beer for the occasion. Go get yourself some, like I mentioned, even if you don't want to get it delivered. They're in literally every liquor store in the country, so hard to miss when it comes to Coors Light. When the mountains turn blue, they're as cold as the Rockies. They literally chill. So go check them out. Make the most of the times you choose to chill by choosing Coors Light and get it delivered right to your door with that CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. And once you're chilled up, you're feeling good, looking good, make sure you hit up Illegal Pete's for some delicious burritos to go with whatever it is you're doing. Queso to die for over at Illegal Pete's. If you haven't been, there's 15 locations in Colorado now. So there's one near you. I promise. Wherever you are, you can go find yourself an Illegal Pete's. Newest one just opened up in Wheat Ridge, I believe. Go check them out if you haven't. There's one just a couple blocks from the DNVR bar. Great place to pregame if you're coming down to the bar to watch some sports, or I don't know if I can spoil the other thing, so I won't say it, but we're going to have some pretty cool events down at the DNVR bar. Eating some Illegal Pete's while you do it. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. The other guy on the poster of this show was Ilya Samsonov, and
Mostly because I wanted to put a goalie.
yeah, sure.
This is Tiff baiting people.
But
It worked. Gotcha.
It definitely works, because the answer is, realistically, I don't think any goalies make sense for the Avs in this free agency.
And especially like a guy like Samsonov would only make sense because you would be giving him like a Cam Talbot type of deal.
Yep.
And you've decided that you need to try and cut a corner on salary somewhere. So you're moving on from Georgiev and you're going with Samsonov and Annunen.
How'd that work out for LA this
No,
year?
thank you, would be my answer to that.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yep. Agreed.
So, I think I'm set on that concept.
Yeah, I'm sad. I mean,
There just isn't anyone readily available at a price point that the Avalanche can afford that's going to be significantly better than Alexander Georgiev.
Yeah, any
Unless you're-
goaltender changes the trade.
Yeah.
unless you're rechanging everything, unless you're going after Markstrom or Saros or whatever it is, and then it's obviously a different landscape. Then you have to change your lineup because it doesn't fit, right?
You have money things to talk about.
Money
at that
thing,
point.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying, but it doesn't fit. But and if you do that, which I don't know, I don't think they're doing that. But then you got Eustace that's waiting, once Markstrom's then, and then Eustace plays his 20, 25, 30 games here in the next 2 years, then he becomes your main guy, right?
That's the
which
dream.
might be the case again with Georgiev there this year too. You know what I mean? Where Eustace all of a sudden is looked upon the guy to take over in a couple years.
I hope
Who
you're
knows?
right. I hope you're right about that.
You also do have the reality of like Alexander Georgiev's 1 year left.
Yep.
And it seems unlikely that he would re-sign at the number that he's at right now, because his agent would be like, "Oh, look at all the wins he has.
Yeah.
He's been good for you in the postseason for 2 years." Like,
Yep. Salary cap's $96 million now.
yeah, like what? I'm going to take $3.5 million again? No, you guys gave me that deal to try and prove it.
Yeah.
If he goes out and has a good year, it definitely isn't happening.
No,
if he
for
goes out and
sure.
has a bad year, then why would you do that?
Why are you keeping him?
Yeah, why would you do that? If he goes out and has a mediocre year, again, why would you do that? So, that's if you're touching goaltender, it's because you've done it via trade.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you're using Georgiev's salary. to help get you to whatever cap number you need to.
Agree.
So that brings us to the rest of free agency, the part where the Avs, I don't know if I'd call it nibbling around the edges. I don't know if I'd call it reclamation projects. But what are they going to do to fill out the rest of that lineup when it comes to Colorado? Now, I don't know if you guys have a couple guys in mind. I do, if you want me to go first.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are two. I don't think reclamation projects are the right word for these guys, but guys that I think you can look at the year they had.
Undervalued.
You could consider that. I don't even know if they were undervalued, because one of them is Anthony Beauvillier.
Okay.
Who was well overpaid this year.
That's absolutely a reclamation project.
Sure. Fair enough. I'd call it whatever you want. It's not really what I'm here to argue.
Sure.
But you're looking at these guys where you can see some potential upside on their game. Like I said with Beauvillier, he's not going to make anything close to $4 million this year. You're talking about a guy that you're probably going to sign for like 2, maybe less. And you can put him into the bottom 6, certainly, if he really pops off, maybe even the middle 6 of your lineup. As a guy that you've seen, there's a little bit of a track record of some quality there back when he was on the island. And as we've seen the Avs so consistently get so much out of players like that, it's him and Kapanen that are the two on my list of, like, I'd be really curious to see what these guys could do in the Avalanche systems.
Beauvillier was on 3 teams this last year.
Yeah, he bounced around a ton.
And he has 17 points.
Yep.
So, and even in Beauvillier's like heyday, right? Like the height of his career,
he's not
going to
blow you away.
Yeah, the height of his career, he was a guy that was giving you right around 16, 17 goals a year.
Yep.
And somewhere in the 30 to 40 point range.
Yep.
That's a good third line player.
Sure.
You could put that guy next to Ross Colton and feel like, hey, we might be able to get something here.
And if you can get that guy for $2 million or whatever it is,
but
he'll take a big. I agree. He'll drop.
Yeah.
You take a guy like that, and it's just been such a bad since he left New York. It's been so bad, and it wasn't amazing at the end of his Islanders tenure.
Yeah.
He was really hot at first when he got to the Canucks, but once that cooled down, it's been really bad. And this last season was a total crater for him.
Yep.
And sometimes you're just not
that's
a fit,
a buy low candidate to me.
Yeah,
like,
and with Beauvillier, you're looking at like how does he play the game? There's a lot to like about how he is successful, but you are looking at this is just a dude that's 2 playoff teams moved on from him.
Yeah.
I'm counting Nashville, not like bringing him back as 2. And a Chicago team that was begging for anybody of any quality to do anything, and he was bad. You and I have loved him for a long time as like a depth guy. I would absolutely, he is one of my first free agency calls to say, here's Jonathan Drouin.
Where are you at?
Will you take $850,000 to come and play in our top 9?
Yeah.
With all the uncertainty going on, our top 9 in our system that has produced, that has directly led to several guys getting huge deals after they've played in Colorado.
I think that's well said. I like him too, just like you guys, over the last few years. And man, he's a complimentary guy, right? He's not a driver. So when that happens, is you have to be a fit. And maybe he wasn't a fit the last couple stops he's been to.
Yep.
I've never heard bad things. He's a good kid, good guy, But you're right. I think it's more like, hey, we have a hole here for you. Do you want to come bet on yourself? And look what it's done the last couple of years for Erod, Jonathan. The list goes on, right? Because
Kadri, Burakovsky.
it just doesn't stop, right?
The Chushkin, Lekaden.
I know.
There's a lot of guys that it has worked for. What I would say
And
about
it didn't work for some guys.
Beauvillier is when you're getting that guy, like you said about him in Chicago, if you're getting Anthony Beauvillier, you are not asking him to go be the best guy on his line in Colorado.
He's not a driver. He's a complimentary guy. And that's why he's a fit here. In my book, I agree. I love the name.
You put him next to Casey Middlestad in the interim, and then you would love for that to be Ross Colton by the end of the year.
Yep.
he gets into your system. Like, you can see where that's an upside.
That's
if
a great
it
name.
doesn't work, though, then you're shopping to replace him, and it's low risk. It's a 1 year. You would only give him a 1 year deal at a really low number.
Correct.
Is it more worth it to him to come to Colorado for a year with a little less money, with their track record of being able to rebuild players' value, or to maybe go get a 2x2 somewhere else where, if it doesn't work for him in the first 50 games,
Career's
he's
kind of just over.
He's just stuck after that.
That's it. And that's where you got to be smart as a player. That's where you need the right representation to sit you down and tell you where you're at. Sometimes you need to know. You need to hear where you are realistically. And sometimes as a player, you defend yourself because you're like, yeah, but it wasn't my fault. It didn't go well those last two stops. No shit. No, nobody said it's your fault. But this is where you're at. That's reality. This is where you're at right now. You're going to take a pay cut. I mean, you're not going to be at the same salary. Where was he at last year? 4.5?
Yeah,
I think.
Or something.
Yeah, so you're not going to be there. Let's just be
4-1.
realistic. Yeah. Do you want to just all of a sudden make a pit stop, bet on yourself? And some guys can, some guys can't do it. I don't know. But I think he's the perfect candidate for that. And some people might say, like, oh, it didn't work for Tatar. I know, but it didn't really hurt the Avs. They walked out of there with signing a guy in August and getting a free, 5th-round pick for him, whatever it was. Okay, great. I mean, it
just wasn't a big deal.
What didn't work? Nothing. I mean, it didn't hurt themselves. They didn't hurt themselves with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a free pick. They picked up a free pick. But no, that's a great name. I like that. But then again, where's your happiness this year if you're him, right? You know what I mean? Where's your happiness?
It always comes down to
try
the
to
player's
figure
decision,
it out, right?
Yeah.
Good call, though. I like it.
Thank you for the dollar, Spence. My other guy was Kasperi Kapanen, who may be less of a reclamation project and more of a you kind of just know what he is at this point.
Yeah.
But a guy that could fit in the Avs, I'll call it third line as a potential like goal scoring type guy for your depth.
I'll jump in first on this guy. Like, for me, I've seen a bigger drop from that guy than, let's say, Beauvillier. Why? I mean, different players. One's a lefty, one's a righty. That's not what I'm saying, but bigger drop in a sense that I think I'm not going to badmouth him, but, you know, what's he done? You know what I mean, what's he, in a sense that, what's his level of seriousness to really want to win and really put his game back on top where it was? And I don't think teams have seen it, so I think teams are going to start. This is the year where they're going to back off from a guy like that, and then it might be a little harder to find a job. You know what I mean? That's just, I think that's where he's at. You know what I mean? And it's gonna. Sometimes it slaps you in the face, right? This is where I'm at. Well, what do I do now? Do I dress up again and go, or do I sit back and complain? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's where he's at. Totally good player. Hey, that stock was big. I'm talking about 5 years ago.
Man, when he was in Toronto, people wanted that guy.
Buddy.
Well, and just in terms of playing with pace,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
he would fit in Colorado with that. But that is a guy that you are not trying to rebuild anything. You're just saying, all right, we're going out and we're getting this guy because we like who he is.
There's no dreaming on him. You're like, hey, give us 30 points.
Yeah.
We'll call it good.
The difference in, I think, Beauvillier and Kapanen is that if you do need a guy that can move around in your middle six,
sure,
Beauvillier is probably the guy you're a little more comfortable with.
A little more flexibility there. Yeah.
And Kapanen is...
He's going to play on your third line maximum.
Yeah, and that's not something I think you really need right away.
Sure.
Because at the start of next year, you're talking about you'll have Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Logan O'Connor, and Nikolai Kovalenko as all part of your forward core somewhere in that mix.
Yep, it's fair.
And that's...
You really only have a couple of bottom six spots left to fill.
And in this world that we talked about, they bring Drouin back. Okay, you have a top six spot that you're looking for, and you have somewhere in your bottom six that you're looking for, whatever that configuration is. And you really need a 4C, like more than another wing.
You do need a center down there.
Like, you could really use that guy. You know, no offense to Chris Wagner, but Chris Wagner should be your 5 or 6C.
Yep.
So that is where it's like with a guy like Kapanen, you're kind of putting yourself into a box there and limiting yourself with some of the potential
for sure, and
versatility. And with Beauvillier, the guy bottoms out, and you really have you've got nothing out of him. And I don't think that happens with a Kapanen in Colorado.
The thing with Kapanen is, with Beauvillier, I'm willing to go a little bit higher. Like I said, $2 million or less for Beauvillier for 1 year, and I'm interested. With Kapanen, that's a guy you're putting in your bottom six to be a cheap contract to squeeze yourself up against the cap type of situation.
See where you're at.
Yep.
I think that's where he's at.
Yep.
Yeah, it's see where you're at. How serious are you? Don't know.
Eric, I want to do a thought experiment with you here.
Is this going to be the trolley problem?
No. We have a bunch of hockey players in the league that they're like compared to animals, right? Nathan McKinnon's the dog. Everyone here in Colorado always called EJ the condor. Ugh. Yeah, Mikko's the moose. I want a player at any time, either when you were playing or now, that you would call the dragon.
Ooh. All right. Can we describe the dragon?
This is incredible.
I mean, it's a dragon.
Is this leading? It's leading into something. Hold on. God. Dragon, like. Because he got bad breath that morning? No, I'm kidding. You got the dragon.
Take it wherever you want to take it.
Kidding. Who can we... Dragon's usually a ferocious, right? You know?
Definitely can be.
I'm going to go like Mike Keane, the dragon. Ferocious, didn't back down.
I'm here for this. If you are going to be dragging these nuts all over the place, make sure you got yourself some Manscaped.
Oh, man.
I can't believe I didn't get it. I didn't know where he was going.
They're back. Scared. They're back, chat. No, it's been... I know it's been a while, but you can get 20% off your Manscaped order and free shipping when you use code AVS. Make sure you go check them out. They have the new Lawnmower 5.0 now, an upgrade from the 4.0 days. So an even a better trimmer for you. Of course, Manscaped has always been one of my favorite reads. You can probably tell from that whole setup. Whatever it is, it's also a great gift for Father's Day, too. If you want to give them a Manscaped package, you can go get them all sorts of amazing products from Manscaped, whether it be their deodorant or their shampoo or their soap. They have all sorts of amazing products over at Manscaped. Get that 20% off and free shipping with code AVS at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off at manscaped.com with code AVS. Never forget where you came from, if you know what I mean. Happy Father's Day from Manscaped.
I should have known because friggin' AJ was looking. Are you really going there?
Yep.
I should have known. I should have known. I fell right in it.
Oh, man.
He knew. He was... The eyes he gave me were like, oh, shit, are they back on the ad read list?
Yeah, I didn't know. And he said dragon, and I looked at him, and he gave me a little nod.
That's awesome.
Once you're all cleaned up in your nether regions, go play some Volo Sports. Get with Volo, download the Volo app, and use code DNVR3 to get $10 off the Volo Pass, which gives you unlimited access to drop-ins, pickups, and even tournaments with the biggest social sports company in the country. They play all sorts of amazing sports. I know they have a Flip Cup League down here at the DNVR bar now, if bar games are more your thing than sports. But you can also get on the football, the soccer, the bowling. They play bocce ball too, all sorts of craziness with Volo. You just got to go get the app and see all the things you can do. You can even use it when you travel. The Volo Pass gets you in any city where Volo operates. So if you want to meet new people or you want to drop in on a work trip or anything like that, Volo is the place to go. Again, download that Volo app and use code DNVR3 to get $10 off your order. Fourth period, overtime period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I gave you a couple of potential options for free agency. Do you guys have any other ones that are realistic, not Jake Gensel tiff?
What? Super realistic, guys.
Tiff.
What are you talking about?
Well, here's what I think they should do, and here's what I think they will do too, and it's not sexy. I think right away they're going to go for a third goalie. You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
of it is a little thin, and nothing against minor, right? He should be your fourth. Let him get some more games this year and be stable.
You don't want to be an injury away from Trent Minor.
That's
on your
my
NHL
point.
bench.
It's not. It's
Absolutely.
nothing against him. He's not ready for that. He hasn't been stable in the American League. So, you need him to get some games down there if you like him, and get him down there. Let him be stable, and let's stop doing the highway stuff. You know what I mean? To Salt Lake, and I mean, just be stable in one place. Work on your game, and maybe there is something there. But they're going to need to go get a third goalie for all the reasons, as we saw this year, and need a little more depth there. And there's guys out there all the time that cost you about $1 million, and the Martin Jones of the world from last year, right? We talked about Delia, right? Colin Delia. I mean, guys like that. There's guys that they can come in, pitch a few innings. So that I think that's going to be one area they're going to go after right away. And believe it or not, sometimes it fits thin, it goes quick. And then you're like, by July 2nd, you're like, holy crap, there's no names left. You know what I mean? So
here's my fear with that. The Avs going out and getting a third goalie, it needs to be a third goalie.
I agree.
This is not a guy that I want taking time away from Justus Annunen, trying to prove that he can be an NHL backup full time.
The thing I think helps for the Avs there is that Annunen loses his waiver eligibility.
Yep.
Oh, he'll be there. He's there.
He's signed for 2 years at such a cheap number that
He's there.
it would be dumb for the Avs to put him on waivers, and for a team like a San Jose.
He's there. Eustace is on the
Eat
roster.
that dude up
Yeah,
right
we tried
away.
to trade for him
Yeah.
last year to be like, no, we won't take him for free. Like, so I
Seems
think that
unlikely.
helps. So it definitely, I think Annunen. I agree with you. I think Annunen is there. So get a 3.
Yeah, like I said, a Martin Jones. Like, okay.
And
then
it does feel like if they were gonna bring Prosvetov back to be that guy, they would have done it already.
It would be done.
Maybe they still will, but also it sure looked like they were like, we moved
played
on
this
here.
string
Yeah,
out as
we
far as we're
moved
going
on
to take
from
it.
this.
Yeah. Agree.
And one thing, and again, I bring it up every time because I've been in, he's one of my favorite fourth liners in the league, Will Carrier. I'm just saying, I don't know if the Avs will be able to afford him. I don't think so. I think it's a pipe dream for me. But I mean, I've talked to a lot of people the last few weeks on him, meaning like my friends around the league, that they're going to go after him. I'm like, I think he's going to get paid. The one thing with Will, though, he's not durable. That's just, it's a crapshoot.
Not at all.
He just misses 25 games a year. You know what I mean? At least.
Pretty
on
tough
average.
for the Avs, who are going to be a cap-strapped team, to get into a bidding war
That's
for
my
a guy
point.
who's going to be
I
injured
know.
half the year.
I said it's
tough.
a pipe dream.
Yeah.
But for a guy that scores 5 goals a year, I love it. You know what I mean? Like, and just boy, would I love to see him in freaking burgundy and white, and that uni. It'd be awesome. But I think it's reaching, so
Yeah.
I'll move on from that one. I'll give you the floor, AJ.
God, it's like all these guys.
Yep.
I think I've already made my Victor Arvidsson case.
You have.
So I don't really need to.
Go back.
And I think if I mention Colin Blackwell, Rudo's eyes will
Here we
roll
go
out
again.
roll out of his head. No Colin Blackwell, no Ryan
look,
Carpenter.
If you're looking for a 4C, I get it.
Buddy, I've always loved him, just so you know.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a 4C, I'm starting with Gergensons and Stenlund as the two guys that I'm like, I would like to start there.
Is Gergensons going to be affordable?
I think so, because he's coming off such a down year.
Sure.
That it's
At
like
a high price, too.
we'll give that one a shake. But
Are they going to finally move on from him, Buffalo?
yeah, I just don't. I have a hard time being like, this is my guy.
No, I don't.
One of the guys that I am really, really curious about in this class, a guy that I know the Avs liked a couple years ago. I don't know how they feel about him now, but Kevin LeBanc has really fallen apart in San Jose.
It's really weird how far he's fallen. Yeah.
And it became obvious that he was way more of a product of the environment that he was in versus a play driving force. Mm-hmm. Because when the Sharks were good, he was good, and then the Sharks got bad, and he got bad. And I think those two things are also tied together. When his play dipped, they dipped. Like they were expecting more from him, and it got really low. And I wonder, what do you think about that guy as a middle six forward in the same vein that we were talking about with Anthony Beauvillier?
I'm interested, depending on price, of
Exactly.
course,
And this is where I'm fascinated how this offseason goes, because it's all like quote unquote dumpster diving. but it's all dumpster diving with upside, right?
Yeah.
In hopes of that, you're going to go dumpster diving, and the dumpster either becomes a cardboard box or the dumpster becomes at least a studio apartment, right? Like
Well,
you're trying to get something out of it.
You better put him with two guys with boots because his pace of play.
Yeah.
It's
not
tough.
good.
It's not good. He's very smart player, very intelligent player, but the pace of play is like, if you think Tyler Toffoli is like slow, that's really slow. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's like, but Toffoli plays fast, right? Because his
Mentally,
thinking
yeah.
mentally plays fast, but he can't skate. This guy, like, the pace of play is, I mean, we were complaining last year about Ryjo all year, and you know what I mean? Like, and this guy's pace of play is you better put him with guys with freaking sneakers that can run,
Well, and
because
as a
he can't.
Pure bottom six guy as
Yeah.
well.
Smart though, smart.
It's tough because he's not an overly physical. He's not going to
Yeah.
get on you on a forecheck. His avenue of success is a lot more. It's a lot more limited
Yep.
than even a guy like Beauvillier, where I'm like, look, even if it doesn't go very well, you could still get a useful guy here.
Whereas
But
you might just
it just seems like such a dramatic departure.
Yeah.
this seems like the anomaly as opposed to a guy who can give you some decent production.
Yeah, and like
I'm not
I
saying
could
he's the 60-point guy he was.
No, no,
but
I could go hard in the paint for a guy like an Eric Robinson, who I've loved for years, but like
Up and down, up and down.
with at least with a guy like the bank, I'm like I'm curious. He's kind of, as Eric mentioned, he's a little bit of a misfit here, but I just don't. I don't know. I'm curious about guys like that, guys with really solid track records
Yep.
in the past when they've been surrounded by really good players.
The Avs have some pretty good players, it turns out.
Yeah. And then just my favorite defenseman that I want to keep an eye on before he re-signs really quick, Oliver Shillington.
Sure.
That's a guy I don't know what the deal is in Calgary. I just, if he makes it to market, he very much fits the Colorado ethos. And
Drop
I wanna,
him a line, see what's up.
I can
That's
see him hitting the market. I can see it. You talk about a guy with pace. That's pace right there. Shilly's one of the fastest human beings in the National Hockey League. Holy cannoli, can this guy fly? You know what I mean? Like, the hands don't catch up to it sometimes, but, you know, he is a smart D, and this is a guy that didn't have it easy the first few years. Oh, boy. I mean, and all of a sudden he would go and be sat for 20, 30 games, and then Daryl saw something in him, Sutter, and then he started playing when Daryl took over, and then he did a good job. And then we all know that, you know, he kind of fell off a little bit with some mental issues, and you know, very open about it, which is great. And then made a big comeback last year. And I like Shilly. I do. I think some teams like him too. He went from a guy with no stock to a guy with real good stock, and then, you know, was absent because of the troubles there. But
And that's a reclamation guy in Colorado. Theoretically would be cheap, but fits really well.
I'd be in on it. 100%.
All right, we got a couple of super chats to get to real quick here. $1 from Spence. Thank you very much.
He added the comment, line A.
Everybody wants us to talk about line.
No, it's not a thing for Colorado, I don't think. But
I don't know if that's true, but I won't do it today.
fair enough. $5 from the Walrus, who's still hashtag trusting farts. Free agency is coming. We miss the game night podcast fun and appreciate the off-season pods to stay interested. Rudo boobs, not Walrus. Definitely Walrus. And then $20 from John, who says 3 cheers for Georgie. Sure. He's the guy next year, at very least. It would
Yeah, I
seem.
mean, most likely.
Barring some crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, unless they make, like I said, make a trade for top end guy.
All right. I think that more or less wraps up our show. We mostly focused on forwards. We'll probably do a show locking in on some more of those defensemen like Shillington coming up next week. Also talk a bunch more draft stuff and really start to drill down, as draft day is only 2 weeks away and free agency just a couple of days after that. So
2.5 weeks away.
yeah.
All right.
Kind
let's
of
get outta
getting
here.
down to crunch time with that. So keep it locked in here. A bunch more content coming your way, including a podcast tomorrow with these two dorks. So
Yeah, just us.
Yeah.
You guys are stuck with a weird
I
show.
get to go to a wedding and not be on a show. But we appreciate y'all.
Get to go.
And we will talk to you guys in the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.